I'm Mr. James,
And I'm Mr. Ritchie.
and
We
we
are
are the
the educators.
educators. Part two, everybody, of Quantified Self. We haven't gone to that slide yet, but it is episode 8. It is season 4. I'm moving our faces everywhere on the screen. It looks weird. Oh, man. Show 47. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Actually, I had a good day at work today. The school
Good.
was manageable. It's day one. We're on a new rotation, so it's the kids are at least, they always know that when they come in on day one with me that they can like expect a dump of information. Just like I'm just telling them about all the stuff that I'm up to, showing them the plants on the shelf,
Oh, yeah.
3D printed things, explaining the life cycle of the spider plant, bouncing back into computer science, talking about algorithms, and trying to like wrap it all up and like do an activity before I ship them out the door 30 minutes later. And it's like, you know, this performance. We talk about the performance, and like, today was a good day. Today was like one of those like days after a show where you're like, yeah, that went really well.
I was really like surprised because I don't look at who's in what class, and work in a school for a number of years, and then
Yep.
you get to know certain students that are, some of the squeaky wheels that basically want a lot of attention, or maybe you know you might have clashed with in the past, and I was like, I don't really. I'm like, I'm one of these cohorts in one of these grades is going to be something that's going to be jarring to me. And I'm pretty sure it's going to happen in cohort B because it didn't happen in cohort A. And guess what? It didn't happen in cohort B. And I was like pleasantly surprised. I was like, what? It's not happening. What's going
Nice.
on? This is. And then I did have one class that I was like, oh, okay, students kind of hanging off chairs a little bit just for no reason at all. We're doing some activity and then just someone decides to hang up. I'm like, you got to sit in your chair. And I'm
Yeah.
like, all right, we're
You
going
know,
to make
like
this work.
I worked in a high school before this, and you know, personalities there are very strong. They found themselves, usually they found an interest and things like that. And at this level, it's like these little sponges walking around, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
they have, they carry all of this stuff from their homes, this environment, and they don't have a filter, and it comes out and it does things, and like it's a very interesting place. And yeah, like I totally did not look at the rosters this rotation, and this rotation I think is one that you had earlier, so therefore it's one of the ones you're probably thinking about. So there's a couple of heavy hitters in like every
Yeah.
class, and we're an integrated, so anyone that's listening, we're an integrated classroom with like we have behavioral students, special needs students. It's fantastic. I like that
Yeah.
style of classroom. I'm all for inclusivity, and I am very respectful of the least restrictive method. And so I enjoy it. And I used to work in special needs, just a couple years ago.
Yeah. And I
And
worked
so,
special ed for 4 years. So,
but the reality as a teacher is that in every class, there are very strong personalities. And I don't believe that there's a bad elementary school student. In my
yeah.
humble opinion, I don't think any child that's in elementary school is bad. I just think that some of them have some real challenging behaviors, so challenging that they actually have, ed techs with them
Mm.
in certain classrooms because of their behaviors. And it's, to protect people and protect me and all this stuff. And, I have a really good relationship with these kids, but still it's a lot of energy, and they can take command of a room at any moment. And so it's a reality. But it's awesome that you don't have a bunch. I had a bunch in this rotation, and the good news is that I'm on day one, and they love everything that's in the room. I've got drones and rockets and 3D printers going, and so it's always a great day for day one and day two. All the even the excitable kids are excited. So
That's what I'm trying to do,
then
trying to get them like that.
and then day two is sort of they come back and they're like, oh, there's work.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. This is one of those, specials classes that I actually have to think and apply myself. Oh, wow. And then you get a little bit of more on day two, and then day three, especially, is when I see the most friction, because it's like, that's when I start, all right, let's do some projects here. And, and that's the cycle. It's humanity, and
Yeah.
it's part of the game, and I enjoy the game very much.
Yeah. We're good at the game.
We
And
are. We're very good.
today's game is Quantified Self Part 2, everybody. This is where we talk about the tools. And I could have wrote that in the bottom there, but we'll write that in the YouTube and the Anchor podcast thing. Or unless you're getting this podcast on another platform, then good for you. That's great. I'm so glad.
Let us know, actually. Yeah, we're curious
Yeah.
what the reach is here.
Yeah. So we do have some
Quantified.
COVID updates.
I actually almost forgot about this part of the show here for a
Yeah.
second. All right.
Yeah, remember, we have to be a little bit pessimistic in the beginning of every show. Let's do this.
All right. Well,
It's
it's mostly good news. Yeah. And for this Thursday, so we're comparing 7-day averages. And as of today, right now, our 7-day average of new cases is 147. Whereas at this time last week was 141. Is a very, very small uptick, but it is basically trending flat over this last week. If you look at the stats, flat. Good news and bad news. I think that we would have continued trending downwards, except this is exactly the time that we're getting the Super Bowl bump. And so I think that the fact that it didn't go back up is promising. I'm not surprised that it goes flat. I actually really thought that by this time we would be seeing a spike. So if tomorrow it's up to 150 or more, then I'm going to be nervous. I'm going to be worried that we are at the base of a spike. But right now, today, I really think that it's just trending flat for a while, and it should keep going down as it gets warmer outside. Because across the United States, we are down 10,000 average daily cases. So, right now, today is 78,000. Last week at this time, right now is 68,000. Last week at this time was 78. And so that's a good sign. And in the world, we're down. Average new cases last week, 285,000, I think.
300.
And 385. There's the Zoom bar was in my way that you could, not touch the mouse for a while. And then 364 this week. So yeah, we're trending downward, except here in Maine, there's this little bump. I'm not surprised, but we'll see how it goes from here. I'll make up my mind next week.
Yeah, it's gonna. I know. Hey, we're still double masking. We said last week, so it is currently February 25th, but we said last week that we would be double masking, and we've been doing that. We've been double masking, even though a KN95 underneath my cloth mask is horrible. And I've switched to like 2 cloth masks because that KN95 just cuts my nose. I can barely, it just hurts so much. But you know what? I'm still double masking and still doing the same exact PPE.
At my doctor's office, he had either medical or masking tape over the bridge of his nose, and I couldn't tell that he was wearing eye protection, kind of like a set of glasses, but like with plastic. And I couldn't tell if it was for anti-fog or if it was like wear. You know what I mean? Like he's been wearing it for so long. So
if we came in with those new masks that we would love to have, then we could show them off to everybody and just laugh as we breathe in perfectly purified air.
How awesome would it be though? So when and we sort of have different classrooms, you have a little bit more space. I'm pretty close. It's hard for me to get distance. When I'm getting within 3 feet, I'm supposed to be wearing a face shield. But these masks that we ordered, not only did they have great filtration for you, but they have these snap-on little glasses that just clip on. How awesome would it be? Just clip. All right, it's time for me to go in and because I got to go around.
I'm going in, everybody.
Exactly. That's how I feel because I have these routines in my classroom where I have to go and log the students into a certain website because K-2 students, they can't go in and type a username and password. It's just. That'd be mean for me to make them do that, eat up 20 minutes just doing that with a whole class full of kids. So you basically go in and I got to get closer than 3 feet. So I'm supposed to wear that mask, the face shield plus my mask, my double mask. And so, sometimes things happen and you get closer than 3 feet and you're like, oh man, I wish I didn't, wish I thought about that. But then I'm like, all right, I got the 2 masks, at least that's good. It's crazy what we're going through right now, but we're making it work.
We're being safe. Hey, wait a minute, there's some trivia on the bottom. What's that?
That's right. What is our respective heart rates currently? How could we possibly even know that? What are we,
I
doctors?
know, I know. Well, let's pull up. I think I've got something on my wrist. I got at least one thing.
Let's see it.
All right, we're going to give you guys a couple seconds. You've got 72.
Yeah.
Oh, I must be more in shape. I've got 64. If I'll be able to
Oh,
see
yeah,
mine,
yeah,
my screen is kind of small. Sorry, you got the bigger watch.
yeah.
Yeah, 64. Barely can see it.
Nice.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Garmin. And I've got the nicer Garmin, basically. The Garmin that decided they didn't want to make the usual screen. They wanted to use a better screen for that. We'll talk about that later because today's show is about showing off some of our quantified self
That's
tools
right.
of the trade that we use. But before that, we have some science in the news. And there's a science in the news item. For those looking at right now, they see a bird on the screen. This is a lyre bird, and I'll be getting to one of those things. But there's an amazing science in the news thing about a new laser. So, do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, that's so laser-based random number generator, and that sounds like a really ultra specific piece of equipment. And it kind of is, but like we all really kind of depend on them at some point,
Hmm.
especially if we like our messages encrypted. So email is encrypted now, text messages are encrypted. So, and the encryption is kind of based on generating random numbers and sequences in order to code the message that's contained in it. And so coming up with random numbers is actually kind of a really difficult thing for a computer to do. And so usual random number generators aren't exactly random. There's usually like a certain algorithm you can find if you look closely enough at it. And it's, some other level stuff that it's certainly outside of my realm of,
Hmm.
creativity. However, I know it exists. It's like quantum mechanics. I know it exists. I've heard the details of it. I don't understand, but I'm okay with that. And if I'm curious, I'll go and look into it further. But like, yeah, so this new laser-based random number generator will be able to generate more numbers faster.
It's like
It's
10
like
times
basically,
faster, right? Yeah.
yeah, because instead of like rolling one dice, it's like rolling 10 dice, basically, is what they described it as, which was a good analogy. And so that is awesome. It basically it's kind of one of those things that I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. That's happening because the amount of data right now that's going back and
Hmm.
forth is just crazy. And so in my class, like today is day one, I do this whole thing where I pull out a motherboard of a computer and I show kids and they're like, oh my God, it looks like a city. Or, they make all these comments and they're kind of amazed by it, but it's really a 15-year-old desktop motherboard. So it's just got these big chunky components that makes them easy to identify. And I take out the processor, and the processor has this little swing door, pull it up, boom, got this processor, and I hold it up and it looks really neat. And it's like, I tell them that this thing is a 3 gigahertz processor. And it's like, nowadays 3 gigahertz, single core 3 gigahertz is like, well, all
Yeah.
right.
No,
you know,
I
good. That
got
was
that on
cool.
my
But
watch.
like
Yeah.
I'm holding it up and I'm just like, this 3 gigahertz processor can think and do 3 billion math problems in 1 second. That's what giga means, like
Hmm.
this can do 3 billion math problems in a second. And it was like, wow, that's amazing. And in my head, I'm like, these kids, I wish they could understand the numbers to understand how little that is right
Yeah.
now in comparison to like even what the computer they're looking at is doing. And so it's, we're generating more data. We need to keep things secure. And this laser-based random number generator is one of those things that we need to sustain our, our, what do you call it? The,
Encryption.
no,
Or just
the
our data.
infrastructure,
Yeah. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
infrastructure, we need that to keep things secure. And it's like, it's exciting as talking about, the town getting a new paving truck.
Hmm.
However, that paving truck is really needed in your town. So like, you're going to enjoy the benefits of it. And it's like, it's neat now. And in 10 years, this will be old news, but it's still pretty cool to talk about here.
Lasers.
Lasers. Yeah, exactly. They're still cool.
So for those that watch on YouTube, there's a bird. As I mentioned before, it's a lyre bird. And they found,
I love these
so
things.
something about the lyrebird. This is something maybe those don't understand. Lyrebirds can mimic pretty much any sound, and that
Yeah.
means human, machine, anything. There's an amazing YouTube video with David Attenborough, and they have a lyrebird, and it makes, there's people that are like with chainsaws in this
Yeah.
rainforest, and it's making the sound of the chainsaws, and there's people talking, and the bird is like opening its mouth, and you hear people's voices like talking to each other, and it's the bird mimicking it,
It's
and the sound of a
amazing.
camera taking pictures of it, and it's like it sounds exactly like that. And they said a single male lyrebird can mimic the sound of an entire flock. And I'm not surprised because these
Not
birds are
surprised.
amazing.
No. Yeah, because
Just,
I've definitely heard of these birds too, and watched that video. Like David, I think David Attenborough was the, the, or
the
whatever,
host
probably
for
was
that,
the,
yeah.
yeah, but like, and the lyrebird is like, looks as crazy as it sounds. The actual bird itself, it's like, looks like kind of a reddish, brown color with these crazy plumes of feathers in the back of it. And I think it does some crazy dances, and
Yeah.
like, it's really probably one of the most entertaining birds to study, or entertaining animals in general to study. It's like, there's these guys digging for worms, in certain areas, and then there's people like watching the lyrebird, and which one's having more fun?
Yeah. Well, the fact that it can mimic all those different things, I mean, it's like,
Right?
it reminds me of, and this is going to be dating me, and I'm sorry, it's old. There used to be a movie on called Police Academy, and there was a person
Yes.
on that can mimic any sound, and it was, I can't remember the actor's name. He's amazing.
He was
But
amazing. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it was just like, it was like, wow, that, if you right now, if you're young and you're listening to this and you're like, what is a skill that I could use that would carry on for the rest of my life? Learning how to mimic other sounds. That means other people's voices. That means the sounds of other animals, or just materials, like the sound of like explosions. Like if you can do that, there's a lot of jobs available to you. Even if
Yep.
you do a job, if you're just like a lawyer, I mean, you can. There's a lot of people that will be laughing when you mimic things like that too. So you'll make a
Yeah.
lot of friends. You'll make a lot of money. Practice that right now. Get in front of a mirror. Get in front of a microphone and practice. Listen and practice. That's the best thing probably I ever did, which is why I try to mimic so many different things to kids. I'm always making animal sounds, and they're like,
And the microphone adds a whole other dimension to it, because you can do different things with the mic to make different sounds, like the
yeah,
explosion, for instance.
yeah, and get that proximity thing.
Yeah.
I get two microphones between me. Last science in the news: having more friends. This is another animal one. Having more friends may help female giraffes live longer.
This is like the third one that I'm like, I'm not surprised. Yeah. Like
Yeah, it's
this.
just like yes,
Yeah.
yes. It turns out like the females, and they don't really like to be around a lot of different animals. Like there is this like click they have with certain other giraffes and such. I don't know much about giraffes. They did mention that their spots are very particular. It's like it's just basically like our fingerprints, very
Yeah.
particular to the animal, and they have for their entire lives
And they're
and
definitely a
such.
social animal.
Yeah, and they need this. This is something that they're really picky and choosy about who they decide to be near.
Yep.
But then it's one of those things where they get comfortable with that, and they require that to like it helps them live longer by
Makes
finding
sense.
places to eat, food, acceptance. Maybe someone moves out, you get to move in and get to eat where they're eating and stuff, and it's just this weird like social order that we keep thinking like, oh, only humans are social like that. No way. There's
Right.
so much more in the animal kingdom that we just don't know about, and it's like,
Yep. It's because it's so hard to generate this data, without it being subjective. Like, like you, even like, Jane Goodall, a lot of people think that her stuff, was too subjective, because it's like, how do you really know like the relationships of these that are forming, or is that like your interpretation? Well, of course it's your interpretation, but it's like,
yeah,
finding data, exact data on some of this stuff is really difficult to do. So it's like awesome that these people, like, when they find these studies, when they do these studies, and it's like good work, like these people put in so much effort to find a way to quantify the things that they're seeing. And that's what you need for science is quantification, basically. Numbering. The world is based in mathematics, and like there's a way to measure certain things. And so it's just a interesting story to cap off science in the news.
Yeah. Now, from an educator, today we just want to talk about one little thing, and it's going to be something we have to actually talk about tomorrow too. In the morning, we have a little meeting we have to talk about.
Really, yeah.
It's class sizes. And I just want to say one thing for this. We'll keep it brief. This year, we've had small class sizes. I think it's
Yeah.
made it amazing for classroom management, so much easier. And I think learning has been more effective because of the smaller class sizes. And of course, everything I've ever read about class sizes being small and being more effective, I mean, I've absolutely seen that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it just made me think for a second, like what it was like last year with,
Ugh.
24 is the norm. I don't know if it's like a state thing or, maximum, but 24 was like this sort of cap. It's what the room is made for, basically. And, it's 24 students. And sometimes in a couple classes, you get an ed tech or two. These are aides or people that work with students, specific students. So you could have easily 27 people in a room. And then if you're monitored, by or observed by administration, you got like 28 people in the room. And it's like all of this stuff happening. And then now we're down to a maximum of 12. And not all of our classes are like that. But that's the maximum, I think. I thought that was a state thing, but maybe 13 is the state thing. And so my room is set up for 12. And it's like, even with a packed room, there's space for everyone. Everyone has a view of the screen, which is like unheard of. Like no one is fighting each other to be able to get view of the screen, and that's incredible. And all of the behaviors that I had, all of the kids seeking attention from others, almost all of it has completely evaporated. The only behaviors that I get are passive refusal, so passive refusal is when a kid just is almost silent, doesn't do anything. You ask him what's going on, and he's just like, just, and no communication, full breakdown, but not a violent outburst.
Yeah.
Whereas last year, it was the opposite. It was active refusal. So active refusal is when they're just like, nope, not doing it. They swipe the papers, or, they're like, doing something else entirely, making noise. And like this year, none of that. It's like, I don't know, this is a great thing. Like, I'm sure, especially for you, psychology wise, but like, what an interesting thing. Cause like children's are very bad at hiding things,
Oh yeah.
And so like you're seeing raw humanity in action. And the fact that we just halved the class sizes and they are like entirely differently behaved is amazing. And there's something to be said about that. And I can't wait for 10 years down the road when we see all the studies that come out from
Why
it.
can't, if we have to go back to these large classrooms, which I think are a bad idea,
We will.
that
There's no way that we can't.
They're going to look at the past and be like, wow, well, it worked so much better then. Why are we shooting ourselves in the foot? And then we'll have 2 years of trying to play catch up and having some of the worst behaviors we've ever had.
And we'll have the data.
For what? For what? So it's just so because we're following the rules, but not because we're not really helping anybody. Everybody's hurting.
Yep.
But because because parents want to go back to work or what have you, and the kids want to be there, or they want their kids to be there, and we have to house that instead of getting more teachers and having a larger building, or getting more classes so that it can be shared.
Yep.
They just want to stick all the population back in. It's just not going to work out. I know it's not going to work out.
It's like, like I think it's unreasonable for a parent to assume that this year will be similar in rigor and challenge like as they're used to. It's very rigorous, probably more so in other ways. But like not every student is successful at it, and especially time management and taking care of themselves. And they shouldn't be. They're 11 years old, and they there's no reason why we should expect them, or 11 and 12, I think, is usually the oldest they are with us. And like, they're probably not ready for that. But like some of the kids are, and they're excelling, they're doing good. They're going to be set up to do great in middle school
Oh
where
yeah.
everything changes. But yeah, it's 24 kids in a classroom is going to be weird. And I
Yeah.
know we're going to have to do it for a couple of years, like you said, to gather the data, to then, you know, a couple years down the line, I'll be there at the head making this big push for be like, look, we have the data. We need to make smaller class sizes. And I
Yeah.
think maybe 15 max. Like I'll give some leeway.
Yeah.
About a 15 max classroom, because like honestly speaking, 24 is too much. 24 to 1 is not a good ratio.
Yeah. I know. Craziness.
Yep.
But on to some good stuff. Okay.
That's right. We get to
Oh, whoa,
transition.
whoa. Oh, it's
Yeah.
switching. Okay, here we go. Okay. Yeah, those are the tools that our faces are in the middle of. Quantified self tools. We got a whole assortment of things to show you
I've got them
tonight.
over here. Yeah.
And I'm going to be switching from our slides view to our shared screen, from that to something other view. So, but first I just want a little beginning to sort of break the ground with this. We talked last week about quantified self, what it was. We talked about the founders. We talked about the fact that people are quantifying themselves to learn about their health, to learn about certain things that they do often, and to make some correlations and causations and such to figure out, what am I doing? Am I headed in which direction? And what can I do to fix myself, rather than going to somebody and trying to get an opinion of somebody who really doesn't care about you. In other words, known as your doctor, because the doctor's like, I'm just going to throw whatever you tell me into my little grid of what I know, and just kind of spit out an answer. If I don't know, I'm just going to kind of go back to my computer and kind of type it in and do my own little Google searching, which they always do. They do that too. So no one is ever completely current, up to date on every single thing that's happening in a certain subject. And you just have to know that. You know what is up to date on that? An AI made by Google or IBM. That's up to date. And
or if you are the person in the world, like, you know, there's no one measuring this, but if you were the person that is the most knowledgeable in something, you don't know that pretty much at that moment. You basically are probably so engrossed in your work that you don't care about such things, and you're too engrossed to even care. Like, yeah, I probably know more than anyone else, but like, you know what I mean? Like, those are the people that are making these changes, is the people that they don't even know what they're doing.
Doctors will give you a diagnosis based on what you're presenting now, and they'll get a little bit of evidence from you about what has been happening, and you'll try to put something into words, and they're just going to see if it fits into their little structure that they've made of certain ailments. And honestly, it's not as precise as we can get if
you had said something to me
ourselves.
You had made a big impact on me when you said something like it was just in passing in conversation one time. I don't remember when it was, but it was like, you see the doctor, like, you know, twice a year, and what they measure your blood pressure, you know, so every 6 months they measure your blood pressure, and it's like, that's it. And they don't know what your blood pressure is the rest of, you know, those 6 months. Like, is that even really? And I was like, wow. Because I never really thought about I kind of thought of blood pressure as like this static thing, you know, that doesn't really change. But of course it does. It changed. And like, I looked up blood pressure, and it's like, yeah, like in order to really take blood pressure, you're supposed to come in and like stay very still for 5 minutes or something, you know, like there's this, you know, if you're going to like really measure blood pressure, like there's this whole process that you're supposed to follow so it doesn't give you a false reading, you know. But like, and then I ended up getting a tool, you know, to measure my own blood pressure. And I was like, wow, it is different in different situations. And like, yeah, man, I can't believe that like they accept this, that you just check your blood pressure once every 6 months.
You're good.
Yeah. Like, what is going on?
Like, oh, I took some, you took some medicine before you walked in, and it just, it changed your blood pressure somehow. And they go, oh, you're good. You're perfect.
Right.
The rest of the time you're not perfect, but just because of that medicine, they're like, we didn't see it, whatever.
Before I came in here, I plowed through a Monster Energy and smoked a cigarette, and like, you know, your freaking blood pressure is gonna go like through the roof, and like, like, man, like,
And they're going to judge it from that. Like, wow, I'm now treating you as if you're a person that has
Yeah.
chronic high blood pressure, even though, no, you just kind of raised it up because of what you ingested. And that's the
It's it.
thing.
Yeah. I
It's
just,
rather see
that made a big
trends.
impact.
Yeah, trends in people's lives. So I have just
Yep.
4 things to say. We're going to be switching screens in a moment. Technology, number one, makes acquiring data easier than our pencil and paper past.
So true.
We
I
love paper and
cannot.
pencils. I still use it. I still write things down. I
Yeah.
don't know if it's just because I like to look down at things and
Yep.
maybe flip through a book of all my writings like it's some prize that I'm going to bequeath to somebody, but it's, I don't know. I'm
I,
just used to writing
it's
things
more,
down.
it seems more personal for some
Yeah.
reason still. And maybe it's because, maybe we are in this just like unique pocket of time because we bridge the gap between pre and post like cyber life. But like,
Yeah.
like the writing down and leaving, like I have post-it notes. Sometimes my computer's covered in them. And it's because like I don't want to forget things. And for some reason that is still, it seems faster than like typing it in here, like
Yeah.
making sure my thumbprint works to open the computer and like get in there and find the app that I'm looking for and all that. Whereas I can just like grab this thing. But like I said in the last episode, that like as much as I want to only do pen and paper, I just can't do it anymore. We need that technology in order to really acquire the data faster and easier.
And
It's the
if
way it
it's
is.
attached to you, it's constantly pulling in stuff that you're not going to
Yeah.
have to waste time to like, oh, hold on a second. I got to do a
Yeah.
measure my this, measure my that. It's like we're doing that already and we're keeping log of it. And
Yep.
later on, we can do stuff. And hopefully, if you get the right software, it will automatically give you some like, hey, you know what? This might be something in the future that's going to be happening to you. So maybe you should curb that by doing this. And that's
Yep.
exactly what you want. You want to be like, hey, great. Thanks for the heads up machine that's on my body, you know?
Yep.
So, software, number two, makes use of older hardware to gather new insights.
Absolutely.
The hardware we're
Absolutely.
wearing is honestly, when we're going to show you that in a moment, it's old stuff. I mean, really, some of the stuff is kind of new, but it's really kind of old. GPS is really old, things like that.
Yeah. We don't have the money either. Like we're not rich here. We're teachers. So like we don't have like the brand new cutting edge, you know, monitors, but we're doing pretty good. Like we're picky and choosy. We make good choices about what we get. And I have to compare it later when we do this, but like I have a professional grade, monitoring system that I was given, and in comparison to what I'm wearing for tech, like this stuff is like almost even built better. Like,
Yeah.
so like this old tech, like as long as, it updates still, as long as they're providing new updates, they can absolutely make use of older hardware to get new data
Yeah.
and
And,
stuff.
and you're putting it through a program that just says, hey, we can still give you something out of
Yeah.
this and you can still get this. I mean, that's really what it is. You want a computer, a program working for you to tell you stuff that you wouldn't have thought of and you didn't have time to compute on your own. And honestly, statistics is difficult.
Yes.
It is difficult. Oh man, we don't even want to
Especially
go
when
into
you're
that.
especially when you're measuring the human body, like statistics
Yes.
plus the variability of the human body. Like, all
Oh
right, well, that's a
man.
lot of data.
So, number three, there is overlap, and tools can quantify the quality of other tools. So, you're going to notice tonight that we both have a device on each wrist. And yes, these devices both measure very similar things. And it will be funny to look at a heart rate on one and get a vastly different number on the other and being like, okay, it's just a different wrist. What the heck's going on? It's all leading to this one heart. Like what's going on? If it's like a huge difference in number, one thinks you're running a marathon, the other one's like you're sleeping, and you're like, what is going on?
Well, so well, I'll mention it now actually, but like so I actually talked about this with my doctor today because I showed him this. He got a kick out of that, the fact that I like all of a sudden in 6 months went from like none to like I'm monitoring my health as closely as possible right now.
Yeah.
And like and he said that he sees that some of the like consumer tech, and he thinks that it sometimes doubles. It does the math wrong.
Yeah.
Like and it might, it like could be a product, like either doubling, or I don't know, maybe there's a way that it could like, be multiplying by 0.75, like because of or like an
Oh yeah.
irregular heartbeat or something, but basically, a lot of times he thinks that he sees consumer tech go from like 90 beats per minute to 180 or something like that. And it's just like, obviously that's a big difference, and if it's doing it back and forth, then what will happen is the data will read out somewhere in between the low and the 80 and the 160. So it's like, you might see it at 120 or something. And, basically, it's interesting, but the more data you get, the better it gets, and the more you can analyze. Really, like you can accumulate a lot of data, but if you don't analyze it, it's not worth anything. But
Yeah, yeah.
that's
And,
why the overlap is there. That's why you get two, and you're like, all right, well, if it's a close reading, then you know that you're somewhere in the neighborhood.
and currently I have 3 on, but we'll talk about that very soon. Number 4, upgrades to hardware and software are absolutely necessary. You have to be upgrading for this thing. It's not, I'm upgrading it because guess what, everybody? Look at, I'm the most stylish person in the world. Look at, I've got this and I've got the newest that. And no, it's not even about that. It's the fact that hey, they found a new way to do something, or they improved on something, faster processor. Maybe there's something you're missing. And of course, the better we get at understanding like what we need to measure, they figured out, hey, look at, the humans have another organ or something. Like they're finding stuff out all the time. Like, oh, we didn't know how to measure that. Now we know how to measure it.
Yep.
And you're like, oh, I didn't realize that was a thing. Okay, great. I need to measure that now. And that's even better indicator of whatever, I just, when I first heard of heart rate variability, I was like, what? Why am I not being able to measure that? And so I had to get a dedicated device just to that, because getting any device with it built in was kind of iffy, because they said it's hard for it to do everything. And like I said, like I might have said before in the show, not in this one, but a previous show, like figure out where your organs are, if you want your heart rate, you want the best heart rate, strap it in front of your heart. Go to the source. You got your wrist, but I mean, go right to the source. I don't even mind if I had a neck thing on, because my neck,
right,
get a pulse right there. That's pretty good too. I mean,
yeah.
I'll wear a choker as long as it says like Google on the side. You
As
got the
long as it
Google choker?
works.
It's called the Google neck gaiter. Okay, it's not a
I'm
choker.
telling you, I would have worn Google Glass if it came out. Like,
Yeah.
I would have used it.
I remember I think for developers, it did $1,300 for developers, but I heard it didn't, they didn't come with much. So I was like, eh.
Yeah, I was thinking like they could, I don't know, maybe like, you have Google Glass, maybe you can get the pulse out of the your temple area.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like maybe like the band just sits there. You can get probably a lot of stuff, like data wise, and in a interface that is like, right there. Like, I don't know. I watched way back when I was a kid, there was this movie, I think Hackers,
Yeah.
where this guy had this like, I don't even know what you call it. It's not VR, but like, it's just like this display that's super retina display, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I want that, and I've wanted that for my entire life. And Google Glass was the
They're
closest.
coming. I think Microsoft is coming out with one too, like
Hopefully
very,
they look
very
like
soon.
this. If they look like this type of,
Yeah.
that's when they're gonna go mainstream.
Hey guys, keep watching this episode and giving us
Yeah.
the thumbs up, subscribe, get your 1,000 other friends to subscribe to this, and maybe we can get those glasses and we can talk to you guys in like
Exactly. We want to get
months.
in on this stuff.
Yes, please. But until then, here is what we quantify with. This slide looks very much like the one I used last week. So
And it
first,
is.
I'm going to describe, I'm just going to quickly say my things, and then we're going to switch off the screen so we can actually show this stuff. So I currently use a Halo band from Amazon. I use my Garmin Venue, which is a smartwatch / activity watch, whatever. I use a Withing scale that I get on, and it automatically goes to my app that I use and just basically logs in my weight, and it takes other measurements and stuff like that it uses based upon weight and the fact that it knows my height, which is a very easy thing to do anyways. A polar H10 strap, which is going to be a little reveal in a little while. Pretty soon, I'll have stuck this thing on my body called the Dexcom 7, which is a CGM, continuous glucose monitor, that a lot of people who are diabetic have to measure blood glucose. And yes, this is a needle that has to go into my skin for 14 days with a device. And this is an older model, which requires me to like stick a little uh, SD card in it and pull it out and put into a dedicated device. Whereas the newest ones, you put on your your shoulder and it goes right to your phone, and it's awesome. And this is all going to my Pixel 3a from Google. So what are you using?
So just like you, I have got the Amazon Halo. However, I have the black strap. Unfortunately,
Oh.
that does not provide more battery life. But I also have I forget the model number, but a Huawei.
Yeah, I think it's the
Huawei.
GT2 Sport.
Yes, and so here's the face. My chosen face. There's a bunch you can pick, and my phone as well. So I usually have my phone on me almost at all times in my pocket. So it is actually a very good and accurate pedometer. So is this, and so is this. So it's interesting to see the data between 3 devices in one. They're never the same. And that's interesting. Like, and they never would be, really, because I'm thinking, like, when I'm wiping a table and I'm washing something, I'm like, is it measuring this as like steps?
Oh yeah.
And you never know. And where this is my pocket, it probably is actually measuring steps better. And so I almost trust the data from this because it's on my hip so much. But I don't know. This is the fun of it. We get to track the data, take a look at it. You make hypothesis. You chase the data. You see if it becomes a theory, and eventually it's like, all right, well, I generally run a heart rate between 80 and 90, for most of my general activity. And like sometimes when I'm really resting, it goes down to 60.
Yeah.
That's my range. And like some people are different. Like you chase the data till you find a pattern and you're like, okay, I recognize that. And that's the thing. I never really paid attention to any of this stuff before, but something else that I consider this quantifying, but like just to know how to manage my daily life. And so
Yeah.
basically, I'm still really working towards quantifying my day and my time, because we all live a finite amount of hours and minutes. We don't know what our total is, because sometimes it's up to us and sometimes it's up to the situations around us, like car accidents and such. And so you never know. And so with the time that you have, quantifying that is sort of one of the things that I keep bringing up. Like, I know quantify self is usually knowing about your health and things like that. I tend to also mention quantifying my time, because
Yeah.
what's health without time? And
That's exactly what I would be using too. Yeah. And
yeah,
my calendar is filled with my schedules and stuff like that. And I
yes.
constantly updating it like, oh, I've got another yoga session here. So, oh yeah.
And there's so many apps out there that that are trying to help people, and I give them credit for trying, but like trying to help people manage their day. But it all requires this terrible thing called input. And
Yeah.
it's like, if I could put a device, like, so the input on is right here. It's natural. I don't input my pulse. I don't input my oxygen. I don't input my vocal tone. It is tracking it automatically. But for some, like, there's nothing right now that can automatically input your calendar and
Yeah.
your schedule. And so therefore, I think that that's important as well. And I use the basic Google Calendar, because since it works so well with my phone, I have found that any of the other apps are actually more clunky and harder to use, because there's settings and menus you have to go in to make them work hand
Yeah.
in hand with all these other things. Whereas if I stick to, so I have an iPhone versus, he is something that runs, what is it, Android.
Yeah.
Um, my iPhone has, obviously Apple Calendar and Notepad and reminders. Well, I use those basic ones because they work they are meant to work with the phone, and
I don't
so
even know where my phone is right now. Like, did I put my phone in here? Probably didn't bring my phone in. All right.
that's good. That's a good problem. Like sometimes
Yeah.
we keep these
It's
on
all
us
right.
too
It's
much.
key.
But
It's constantly. It's constantly getting that data.
that's
All right.
right.
We're gonna switch over now. Boom. Stop sharing. This is a new thing for. Whoa. Here we go. All right. Big screen finally.
Right.
Okay. Kind of
All
scared
right.
about that.
Let me go first.
Yeah. Sure. Let's do this.
All right. So we got the Amazon Halo,
Ooh.
and this is the Huawei GT2.
Ooh. Yeah. See. Look at that.
Yeah.
Nice.
And what I like about these, I got to mention, this is a very breathable band. It's hard to see, but all those are holes that go to my skin. This one is actually a pretty good like synthetic band that does seem to dry out pretty quickly because there's a lot of hand washing during the days and stuff
They
like
do
that.
make, and they do make the hold version of
Yep.
the Amazon, the Halo. It's $25.
Yeah.
It's so expensive. It should
Yep.
be $10. Come on.
Now, of course, I've just got a standard. This is an iPhone SE or something, but there's some other things that I have in the house. So before I got these, I bought a standard oximeter. And what's cool about this is that unlike either of these, I could put it on my finger and it measures directly and changes in real time my specific oxygen. If I want to measure my specific oxygen, and so I also, my pulse always reads lower on this one, so I kind of always believe this one. But so specific oxygen is basically how efficient your lungs are, your cardiovascular system as a whole, not just your lungs. But like, so, you want 100, you want a 99, 100 is achievable. Basically you're using as much oxygen as your body can allow. Very accurate, but the problem is it's very uncomfortable to sit on the tip of your finger.
Yeah. Oof.
And yeah, and so when I've been sick, it's been a long time since I've been sick, and so that's just, I think, a product of masks and social distancing, but like, and diet and stuff. But basically, when I was sick, I put this on my finger just to measure because I was concerned. I've got asthma. Whenever I get a respiratory, illness, it like really affects me, and I always wanted this to monitor my oxygen while sick to make sure I'm not like dying, gonna wake up dead or something, and so I put that on, and honestly, I was actually relieved. Just it stays in the normal range. It's a great thing. But it's not like it has an alarm. I would love one of these to put on while I'm sleeping, that if it dips down into the 80s, it's going to set off an alarm and wake you up.
Yeah.
Because like, you don't want your specific oxygen.
I believe your watch will do that. I believe your watch does that.
Oh, interesting.
It does have something like that because it
That's
did some
cool.
stuff with, I think it did some stuff. I had that same watch before.
Yep. And so my wife has mentioned in conversations, that she had, like, she was worried about like heart murmurs or like a regular heartbeat. I forget what they're, palpitations or something like that. And so we also use the Cardiomobile. The problem with this one is that it doesn't provide the user the data. It basically is a really dumbed down version of a really good device. So it measures really specific things with your heartbeat, but it doesn't provide the data. It just basically says, green, yellow, or red, like basically like, yeah, you're good. You're not dead. Yellow is like, you might die. And red is like, you're probably going to die or something. So it's like,
thanks.
like,
Guess I won't make myself a sandwich.
Yeah. And so, it's interesting. It's a good try. I'm not super stoked about it, but I mean, right there, but you probably have to dive deep into it. It wasn't really, it was kind of clunky. And now to compare that, I'd mentioned this is professional grade, quote unquote, medical equipment. So I was worried about sleep apnea, which is why I was mentioning my specific oxygen while I was sleeping a minute ago. And so I had gone into the doctor and they provided the WatchPat 1.
Ooh.
Yeah. And the WatchPat 1 comes with this little finger monitor. I think that's what is measuring pulse, blood pressure. This measures everything from like if I'm prone, standing up. Like I saw the data today at my doctor's office finally. And then this goes on your chest to measure heart rate, I assume, because that's what it says, in the pictograph. And it records a good amount of data, at least enough data that doctors are comfortable prescribing this to someone. They go to sleep, they wake up, and you don't ever see the data, which really sucks as a patient.
It's
No data at all. The app on your phone that you have to use, you have to link it with your phone, just says nothing except that it's uploaded, good to go. Talk to your doctor. And it's like, I
talk to
really
the person who's going to charge you money.
exactly.
We own your
really
data.
was hoping I was going to get access to this. And so today, my doctor actually did go into the chart and dig up the data, which was really kind of cool to look at. And basically, it turns out I don't have sleep apnea. Good news, everybody. And so those are the gadgets that I use. What are the gadgets that you use to quantify yourself?
All right. Well, I do have freshly charged.
Yep.
I always want to tell you, I'm dying 20%. I'm dying 10%, 5%. Get me off your wrist and get me charged. Yes, shut up. Look, and for me saying that right now, it's going to tell me that I'm angry. So, yeah. I've got
the green light flashed.
Yay,
You're done.
Yes. And of course, underneath this, which I don't want to really take it up, but whatever, it is flashing the entire time. Right now, you can see it flashing like crazy. It wants to get at
that green light. I'm so intrigued by the green light. I got to research that.
Yeah. And we get another green light over here. This is my Garmin Venue.
Yeah.
Boom. And I get all my things. You can listen to my music and all that stuff. And yeah. Tells me temperature, things like that. It's really great because the exercising I do yoga, all the stuff, it syncs up with that. It's got GPS built in. I love that. Garmin has quite a series from like the entry level. This is kind of like a little step up from that to the person who's going to go be mountaineering on like Mount Everest. They have the $1,600 watch that basically takes everything and is solar powered as well as like all these other different things. And they're coming up with some other stuff now that eventually might do some other crazy things. So these two are taking heart rates and other things, but I needed heart rate variability. So I got this thing. I went crazy with that. And I take it off right now.
Yeah, you've been wearing that the whole time. Yeah.
I think he's wearing that thing. So this is the Polar H10.
It's smaller than I thought.
And it basically is a little thing that clips on. And there's sensors built into this that go across my chest. And the reason why is I can get my heart rate, but the heart rate variability is the differences between your heartbeats. So the fact that your heart can be this fast, it can be this slow. And the more variability you have, the healthier you are.
Yeah.
Now, if you start exercising, it goes down because your heart's under stress. And technically, I only need to use this in the morning because I just check. It gives me a readout from a certain app that tells me, hey, you're good to go. You want to exercise? You can push it today. Or, hey, your parasympathetic nervous system is a little more active. You need to rest or something like that. Or sometimes sympathetic nervous system. And it's got this sort of like spectrum. And, for $70, this is a great thing for that. And it does strap on. And when I start my little second career as a runner, this is going to be great to get my heart rate going. And there's several other apps I want to try with this. And as much as I like these things, this thing is directly above my heart. So
now, and it's measuring and recording something that like these don't even try to do. Yeah. And so it's like what you said, $70. So yeah, we should talk about cost. So like this, the Halo, I think we both paid about $70 for that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Then the watch. Well, I had a close friend give me the watch, but retail I think was about like 80.
Yeah, well, that's you got 160 for that watch. And the Huawei. I think this is a $300 or $400 watch, but of course I found It's refurbished. Come on, everybody. This is how
Right.
we buy things for teachers. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's refurbished, but yeah, for 150 or something like that.
They're
I don't know.
claimed refurbished, but they usually show up in a nice box, you
Yeah,
know, and
yeah, that's the thing. So it works like that. But now there's
yeah.
something I do every morning too, and I'm not really big on weight, but I don't do notice that weight changes kind of help you understand some things helping with your body. And this is like the specific company for this sort of thing. This is a Withing scale. I don't know if I can get it to turn on by like pushing on it. Maybe not.
Right. Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Actually,
That is neat.
I'll do this right now in front of everybody. I'm gonna take my
Yeah, there we go.
box off. I'm dressed a little weird. I'm sorry, everybody. This is how you never see this. You never see this. Let's see. Okay. Great. Well, yeah, see, so it's got a little screen right there and it just shut off.
Oh.
That's great. But it does the calculations you need, and it's completely hooked up to
That's
my to the apps.
honestly, it is really difficult for me to record my weight because that's one of the inputs that I have to put into my phone on
Yes.
an app.
I just
And
go in the morning, I wake up 5:20 in the morning, I walk over to the thing, I step on it, measure that, and I do that before I get in the shower after I come back from school, because I take afternoon, evening showers, not morning showers. Morning's meant for exercise and fueling up. Don't have time for that. That's why my hair's kind of a mess in the morning, and everyone wonders about that. Hey, sorry, get the germs off after school is what I'd rather do. But it gives me twice to measure it. My weight does fluctuate 2 or 3 pounds throughout the day because, of course, I'm
yeah,
taking in food and water weight
water.
and such. But it's good. It's keeping the data there, which I really need. The
That's cool.
biggest thing, and this is something, and I thank the one of the founders to this Quantified Self movement, Mr. Gary Wolf, sent me this device, which is
Oh, that's right. I've been so curious about this.
right here. These two big packages, the Dexcom 7, and I'll just show you
Sounds
briefly
so
what
legit.
it's got. 4 of these little things right here, which look like a syringe. And this fits onto your body, and you push the button and it sticks in, and there you go. Of course, you need to clean the area first, alcohol, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have this device in here, which is going to be like, it's almost like an old school Game Boy. But yeah, you're going to get a little device here that reads it. Much like
Okay.
something if you prick your finger and do that same sort of thing, just a little readout thing. And it's got that little thing in the bottom for the little device that goes in. And that's going to be stuck to my side for 2 weeks. That's it for each one of those things. And of course, it has these other little things. I guess this is something I put over it just to carry it around with me. It's got a charging thing, and it's got a nice little thing to go hook up to my computer with. So yeah, nice little device. It is about 10 years old because they have much newer stuff now. But if you're diabetic and you're listening to this, oh, and it falls down, then you realize this stuff is crazy expensive. And I mean, your insurance may be paying for some of this stuff, but you're going to be paying. This stuff is thousands of dollars. I mean, they get insurance to cover a lot of this stuff, and it doesn't want to cover it because it is crazy expensive. Which is one thing that we find that's such a problem, which we would love to have,
Yeah.
things say covered. But yeah, quantifying ourselves, we're starting from the ground up. It's going to start with these little wearables and then working our way up into something where we can get some major things taken care of. And
It was
maybe,
kind of like still a ground floor kind of thing. Like people
yeah,
getting in on this right now is kind of like electric vehicles. I'm also into electric vehicles. And it's still like the tail end of the ground floor right now of electric vehicles. I've been into it for 5 years, ground floor of electric vehicles. And like right now we've got these bands to measure ourselves. And like pretty soon everyone's going to be measuring themselves. Like, the iWatch, like, a lot of more people have those probably just because of the hype. and they don't even understand the power that lies within it. Like they could really track more. There's more apps on there and stuff. I don't have the money for an iWatch. Like, so a lot of people that if you're looking at this and you're like, oh, wow, these, why, especially me, because I have the iPhone, why doesn't he just use the iWatch? Well, it's like, yeah, you buy one for me, I'll wear it. But like, right now I'll stick to these ones that are doing good, but the UI, the user interface, could use some work. And we've talked about the next step, I think, in quantifying will be having apps talk to each other, getting all of your data in one app or one source. Because I mean, you're using multiple devices. Again, I have to input my weight, which doesn't happen because unfortunately in my day it's just, I'm so busy, I forget to do that. And so, there's still places to go. Like a lot of people might say, it's not quite there yet. And, as of right now, we're able to get a lot of data out of this stuff. I actually feel a lot more comfortable measuring my health now. I feel like just more knowledgeable. It's like knowing more about a car while you're driving it, knowing how it gets you down the road. It's just something that feels better to know more about.
Nice. I don't know if we ever ran today.
I didn't. I had mine last time.
Yeah, sorry guys, we're not gonna rant today. We ranted quite a bit already. It's still gonna start playing. It automatically starts playing. Oh, love that. Hey, wait a minute. What does that say? What does that say right
My
there?
Halo band is at 20%. I got that same message.
Yeah. I did get that today.
Just a product review. Amazon, if you're listening, this watch will last almost a week, and it's got a screen and all kinds of things. This thing weighs just as much, and 2 days is a lot for this thing. So I'm just saying.
It's funny when one of your wearables is giving you messages about the other wearable, and that's all you get basically for like an hour. Just like, hey, I'm at 10%. Hey, I'm at 5%. Just telling you, I'm not going to measure your food.
I thought it was my watch telling me that it was out of battery. And I was like, what? Are you serious? I plugged you in, and I'm like, oh, band is at 20%. Like, all right.
Yeah.
Band is just so crazy.
Band must be performing some amazing calculations for the millions and billions of dollars that Amazon has to do.
Yeah, seriously.
We're hoping it does, but hopefully everybody enjoyed the show and enjoyed understanding some of the tools that we use. I know there are people out there that have a lot of money and they have a lot of things to throw at this stuff, and maybe they're from just, they have a background in a lot of technology where they can get the best of this. We're going to be going there. There's going to be something that we have to buy the Rolls Royce, or let's just use modern terms, the Tesla. We're going to need to get the Tesla of some devices. There'll be something we'll be like, what? There's nothing, we can't go any less than that. We have to buy the Tesla of that. When I find that wearable, I'm going to find a way for us to get it, and we're going to wear that, and that's going to be the definitive thing. If we can find an app that even cost, $20, but it does everything and syncs everything up, totally worth it. So far, haven't been able to find it.
That's right.
You might even be working with some people that are trying to make an app, but everyone's trying to make an app now. And it's the hardest thing is, there's so many different things. What do people want? What's going on with that? I mean, there's so many great apps. It's just, they don't want to communicate. They want to all be an island. Don't be an island. You're a community. Work together. There's enough money to go around. No one's going to become another Amazon. It's just not going to happen. I don't think anytime soon. There's not going to be I don't think there's going to be another company that just pops out of there and be like, hey, technology. You got your Amazon, you've got your Apple, you got your Google. That's what it is.
Walmart was it for a while, and then all of a sudden Amazon was like, what? Amazon's now challenging and rivaling Walmart? Oh my God, what? Like, well, it's going to be a while, I think, for the next one of them. Yeah. But, I did want to just point out, like, look at our naked wrists in this picture here.
I know.
We didn't have any of this. Like, that was only just a couple months ago.
And I think I was I must have been charging I had a Sony smartwatch 3 that
that's
I ran
right.
for like 8 years, had absolutely nothing underneath it. So it wasn't measuring any vitals whatsoever, but it had amazing control of everything I needed because of Android Wear, which I think is going away because Google doesn't want anyone to talk about it because they bought Fitbit and they think they're just going to take Fitbit's ecosystem and just go that route. Which saddens me because being able to control your phone like from your wrist perfectly is, I just love that. I mean, I could literally search on my phone if I wanted to from my wrist. Whereas like Garmin's like, no. You want these apps, this is what you're gonna get. You're not gonna be able to like do free searching and stuff. But I thought it was interesting to be able to do that. But yeah, there's only so many things they can offer. And I mean, the company goes in one direction and you just kind of like, oh, I guess that's how things have to be now. But that's why we have to upgrade. Sensors get better, we have to get better with that, and we have to figure out what fits into our lives and hopefully not change ourselves too much. Do we want to bend for our tools, or do we want to use the tools to work for us?
That's right. I mean, that's right. Tools gotta work for us.
Yeah, don't become a nail just because you have a hammer. Well, this is season 4, but it was episode 8, I believe, right? I keep forget if I don't see the first slide, but we'll see you again next time. I'm Mr. James.
And I'm Mr. Richie.
All right, we are
the educators.
Have a great night or day or morning. See you later.